All living organisms have certain features that define life. These characteristic features are growth, movement, respiration, reproduction, circulation, and nutrition. However, not all of these features are present in living organisms. Plants do not move. However, they are still living. They do not inhale and exhale air like humans. Neither do they consume food. However, whether we perceive or not, life processes occur continuously to sustain life. Plants take in carbon dioxide and release water vapor through their stomatal openings. Plants prepare carbohydrate molecules in their chloroplasts, which is food for them as well as for us. Plants respond to external stimuli. Let's look at some of these features that define life. Look at the fundamental unit of life, the cell. This is an animal cell. It contains the nucleus, having the genetic material and other organelles that carry out life processes. Plants possess cells too. Along with other organelles, plant cells possess specialized organelles named chloroplasts that carry out photosynthesis and produce food that sustains life on Earth. We know that what we call as non-living definitely does not have functional living cells. Cellular level of organization is thus a defining feature of life. We know of various reactions occurring within our cells. The chemical reactions taking place in the cells is known as metabolism. For example, replication of DNA, formation of ATP for energy, and formation of glycogen and its storage are life-sustaining metabolic reactions that occur in living beings. Non-living things do not carry out any such metabolic reactions. How does growth occur? Organisms grow as their cells divide. Growth is thus increase in cell mass and cell volume. Plants and animals show differences in growth patterns. Animals display overall growth, whereas plants grow at specific sites known as meristematic tissues. Also, plants can continue to grow throughout life, whereas animals show determinate growth. Now, consider this case. Can rivers grow? Can this be called as growth? Non-living things such as rivers, mountains, and sand dunes grow as a result of accumulation of matter. They do not grow internally. As non-living things do not have cells and as they do not grow internally, growth and cell division are considered to be the defining features of life. Procreation is a feature possessed by living things alone. Humans show sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is responsible for creating variations in populations. Plants show vegetative, asexual, and sexual modes of reproduction. Dispersal of spores and seeds helps the plant germinate at some distance from the parent and gives it a better chance of survival. Some bacteria divide every 20 minutes and reproduce millions of bacterial cells. On the other hand, non-living things never reproduce. However, not all living beings reproduce. For example, sterile animals such as mules and sterile worker bees do not reproduce. Reproduction is thus not an all-inclusive defining characteristic of living things. Living things respond to its external environment. It responds to different kinds of stimuli. The main ones are touch, chemicals, heat, light, and sound. Single-celled organisms such as bacteria respond to their surrounding by moving toward areas of high glucose concentration. This is called bacterial chemotaxis. Plants grow in the direction of sunlight. This is called phototropism. Animals run to save their lives when attacked by a predator. This proves that animals are aware of their external environment. Non-living objects never respond to external stimuli. Ability to respond to stimuli is thus a defining feature of living organisms. However, science is yet to answer many unsolved mysteries of life. It is yet to explain how a person in coma who has lost consciousness is still alive. And this is where science meets philosophy. The vast diversity of the living world is far beyond our imagination. Life ranges from unicellular bacteria to multicellular animals, including humans. From unicellular plants such as algae to giant redwood trees that are more than 300 meters in height. In order to study the vast diversity of the living world, it is essential to classify and name each organism under various groups. Studying characteristics of a few representative organisms from each group gives a holistic view of the life existing on Earth. Study of morphological and anatomical characteristics of organisms helps establish relationships among them. It is believed that all living forms existing today have evolved from a common ancestor. Classification helps establish the evolutionary relationships among different organisms. The term taxonomy is derived from the Greek words taxis, meaning arrangement, and nomos, meaning law. Taxonomy is the study of the principles and practices of classification. In 1748, Swedish botanist and anatomist Carolus Linnaeus described and classified all plants and animals known at that time. Carolus Linnaeus is thus called the father of taxonomy. Taxonomy is a science that deals with the characterization, identification, classification, and nomenclature of organisms. Describing essential features of an organism is called characterization. Identification is recognizing an unknown specimen with an already known taxon and the assignment of an organism to a particular taxonomic group and ultimately to a species. Identification is done by referring an individual specimen to a previously and authentically classified and named group, or with the help of keys and descriptions given in various regional or state floras. Linnaean taxonomy classifies organisms into 7 major ranks called taxa, singular taxon. The taxa are kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. These categories or taxa form a taxonomic hierarchy which can be represented as an inverted pyramid. organisms are grouped into an ascending series of successively larger and broader categories. According to the modern five-kingdom classification, the entire living world is divided into five kingdoms: Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. However, under these five kingdoms are contained millions of living species. Thus, kingdom is a broad-level classification of an organism, and species is a smaller group that consists only of interbreeding organisms. For example, kingdom Animalia consists of phylum Chordata, that in turn consists of class Mammalia. Class Mammalia consists of different living species. Here, members of class Mammalia are a part of phylum Chordata and kingdom Animalia. After understanding the hierarchy of classification, let's take a look at the hierarchical classification of two living species belonging to different kingdoms. While classifying plants, rank phylum is replaced by division. Now, let's compare the hierarchical classification of two organisms belonging to the same kingdom. From their classification charts, it is easy to infer that both organisms belong to the same class Mammalia. Nomenclature is the system of giving scientific names to organisms. But what is the importance of giving scientific names? What we call lotus in English is called Kamala in Kannada, Padma in Bengali, and Lianhua in Chinese. Thus, having one standard, internationally accepted name allows precise recognition of an organism by scientists in all parts of the world. Scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name, and that the name has not been used for any other known organism. The convention of naming organisms with two names is called Binomial Nomenclature. Binomial Nomenclature was introduced by Carolus Linnaeus, who is regarded as the father of taxonomy. Carolus Linnaeus published two books, Species Plantarum and Systema Naturae, where he described and named over thousands of plants and animal species. Thus, as per binomial nomenclature, the first component is the name of the genus to which the species belongs to, and the second part, the specific epithet, refers to the species within the genus. Naming of plant species is as per the principles and criteria laid down by the International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, ICBN. Similarly, the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, ICZN, deals with scientific names for animals. Scientific names of organisms are always printed in italics. Scientific names are drawn from Greek or Latin. The generic name of an organism always begins with a capital letter, and the specific epithet with a small letter. When handwritten, both the components of the name are underlined separately. The binomial name of an organism is followed by the name of the scientist who classified the species. The name of the scientist is written in an abbreviated form. The scientific name of lotus is thus read as Nelumbo nucifera Garten. The scientific study and description of the variation in living organisms and the relationships that exist between them is called systematics. Phylogeny involves the study of the evolutionary history of organisms. A fundamental assumption of phylogeny is that all life forms existing on Earth today have evolved from a common ancestor. The best method used to infer the phylogenetic relationship between organisms is cladistics. Cladistics uses evolutionary trees called cladograms and divides organisms into groups or clades that represent different branches on the tree. Each clade consists of a single ancestral organism and all its descendants. Let's look at some instances to understand how animals are classified on a cladogram. For example, this node represents the time when organisms evolved to produce amniotic fluid in their egg structures. Consequently, all organisms that descended continued with the same feature. Similarly, as time evolved, organisms evolved to become viviparous. All organisms that descended from this ancestor showed vivipary. Thus, the phylogenetic tree consists of nested clades that represent evolution of organisms over time. It is obvious that organisms belonging to the same clade are more closely related to each other than organisms located outside.
Taxonomy is the branch of biology that deals with classification of the living world. Taxonomy classifies organisms into groups called taxa or taxon in singular, which are further arranged into different taxonomic categories. These taxonomic categories are arranged into successive levels or ranks, and this arrangement is called the taxonomic hierarchy. Thus, a taxon includes all organisms belonging to a taxonomic category. The term taxon is also used to indicate the rank or the category of hierarchical classification. Scientists have divided all living organisms into 7 major taxonomic categories. They are kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. In case of plants, the term phylum is replaced by division. In the hierarchy of classification, organisms are grouped into an ascending series of successively larger and broader categories, so that lower groups are always subordinate to and included in those that are higher in the hierarchy. Let's discuss the different taxonomic categories, beginning with the lowest category, the species. By definition, a species is a group of similar organisms which can interbreed with each other and produce fertile offspring. If we consider the plant kingdom, potato, tomato, and brinjal are 3 different species. These species are given unique, specific epithet, which is their species name. The specific epithet of potato is named tuberosum, tomato is lycopersicum, and brinjal is called melongena. Genus is an important rank in the taxonomic hierarchy, just above the rank of species. It is a group of homogeneous species. For example, the 3 species that we saw earlier belong to genus Solanum. You know that according to the Binomial Nomenclature, the scientific names of organisms are their genus and species names. Thus, the scientific name of potato is Solanum tuberosum, tomato is Solanum lycopersicum, and brinjal is Solanum melongena. Consider another plant genus, capsicum. Genus Capsicum consists of different species, such as the Thai pepper, the bell pepper, and the habanero. Genus Solanum and genus Capsicum are 2 distinct genera, plural of genus. It is evident that species belonging to the same genus have more similarities than species of different genera. The next taxonomic rank is the family. Family consists of groups of similar genera. For example, genus Capsicum and genus Solanum, the 2 similar genera, belong to the family Solanaceae. The Solanaceae family is informally called the potato family. This family consists of agricultural crops and plants that are exclusively used by man as food, spices, and medicines. Similarly, there exists another family in the plant kingdom called the Convolvulaceae, or the morning glory family. The leaves and roots of these species are consumed by humans as food. The next taxonomic category, order, usually comprises of groups of families thought to possess a degree of phylogenetic unity. We looked at two families, the Solanaceae family and the Convolvulaceae family. Both these families belong to the order Solanales. Another example is order Rosales, which includes species such as roses, strawberries, apples, peaches, and apricots that belong to different genera and families. The next taxonomic category is class, and it includes several related orders. For example, orders Solanales and order Rosales belong to the class Dichotomous. The distinguishing feature of class Dichotomous is that they produce seeds with two cotyledons. Another class related to dicotyledons is that of monocotyledons. These plants have seeds with single cotyledon. The second highest category in the classification of plants is division. Different classes belong to the category division. Class Dichotomous and class Monocotyledonous belong to division Angiospermae. Division Angiospermae includes all flowering plants. Apart from angiosperms, the plant kingdom consists of other divisions too. For example, plants are also classified under divisions Coniferophyta, Pteridophyta, and Bryophyta. All plants belonging to different divisions are assigned to the highest category called Kingdom Plantae. And according to Whittaker, the entire living world is constituted in the five kingdoms, namely Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, and Animalia. This concept is known as Whittaker's five-kingdom classification. After learning the different taxonomic categories into which living organisms are classified, let's look at the classification of an animal species and a plant species. Let's begin with an animal species, the kangaroo, which is a marsupial. It is classified into Kingdom Animalia, Phylum Chordata, Class Mammalia, Order Diprotodontia, Family Macropodidae, Genus Macropus, and Species Rufus. The scientific name of kangaroo is Macropus rufus. Let's move to classification of the wheat plant. Kingdom Plantae, Division Angiospermae, Class Monocotyledonous, Order Poales, Family Poaceae, Genus Triticum, and Species Aestivum. The scientific name of the wheat plant is Triticum aestivum.
Carolus Linnaeus, known as the father of taxonomy, published books such as Species Plantarum and Systema Naturae, which form the basis of modern taxonomy. In his publication Species Plantarum, Linnaeus described over 5,900 plant species. And in Systema Naturae, he described and named over 4,200 animal species. Linnaeus accomplished this remarkable feat by studying plant and animal specimens. Thus, the first step in taxonomy is the study of specimens. It is thus evident that taxonomy involves exclusive field study. Institutions and theoretical aids that help biologists in correct identification of species are called taxonomic aids. Herbarium, Hortus siccus, is a collection of plants that usually have been pressed, dried, and mounted on sheets. How are these specimens obtained? The plant species to be preserved is first collected through extensive field study. It is absolutely essential that plants are collected during the flowering stages of their life cycle because they can be easily identified at this stage. The next step is the drying of plant species. A commonly used method for drying is pressing of plant species between wooden planks. After a week or so, the plant is removed and pasted onto a white sheet with the help of quick drying adhesives. A label having information about the common name, scientific name, date, and place of collection of the plant sample, and the collector's name is pasted on the lower right-hand corner of the sheet. Herbaria may be a small local collection containing, for example, a county flora or large international assemblages, as at the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew, where approximately 5 million species are housed. There are different ways of preserving dead animal specimens. One way is to preserve them in solutions such as formalin that prevent damage to its body parts. You must have seen stored specimens of plants and animals in your science laboratory. It can thus be called a biological museum. There are different ways of preserving dead animal specimens. One way is to preserve them in solutions such as formalin that prevent damage to its body parts. Vertebrates such as dogs and birds are stuffed and mounted for display. This method of preserving animals is called taxidermy. Museums also preserve animal skeletons that are obtained from dead animals or fossils. Tiny creatures such as insects are collected, killed, and pinned to be preserved in insect boxes. Botanic Garden is an area in which a wide range of plants are grown for scientific, educational, and aesthetic purposes. Plants in the Botanic Gardens are labeled indicating their scientific names. Large greenhouses are maintained in botanical gardens so that it can provide appropriate conditions for exotic plants. Botanic gardens also include herbaria, research laboratory, and gene banks. Zoological parks or zoos are especially loved by children. Zoos are places where wild animals are conserved in protected environments. All animals are provided conditions that are more or less similar to their natural habitats. Zoos help us gauge food habits and other behavioral patterns of animals. A commonly used taxonomic aid is a dichotomous key that helps in the identification of species by presenting a series of paired statements that define the morphological characters of species. Let's understand the use of the key with the help of an example. Suppose you spot a tree in your surrounding and you are curious to know which species it belongs to. When you start using the key, you are presented with a question about the type of tree. Out of the two options, you pick one and the tool presents you with another option regarding the kind of its leaves. Then, on choosing one of the two options, you are to answer one more question. As you answer the series of questions, you identify that the tree you spotted was a walnut tree. Such a key is called a dichotomous key, as each step presents two choices that lead to the identification of the species. Various forms of literature incorporating description, illustrations, and identification keys are useful for proper identification of unknown plants. The major forms of literature helpful in identification of species are described below. Flora is an inventory of plants of a defined geographical region. For example, in the Indian subcontinent, Flora of the Upper Gangetic Plains by J.F. Duthie and Flora of the Presidency of Madras by J.S. Gamble include information regarding the plant species present in the respective habitats. A manual is a more exhaustive treatment than a flora, always having keys for identification, description, and glossary, but generally covering specialized groups of plants. For example, Manual of Cultivated Plants by L. H. Bailey. A monograph is a comprehensive taxonomic treatment of a taxonomic group, generally a genus or a family, providing all taxonomic data related to that group. The genus Pinus by N. T. Mirov in 1967 is an example of a monograph. Catalogues give information regarding the scientific names of different living species.